A nice round of visit to Expo and networking tea. We are back to action and beginning with the first session of eGov Knowledge Exchange Srinagar 2013. The first session with which we are beginning today is e-governance initiatives for safety, security, surveillance, the three crucial aspects which are integral for any governance across the world, not including, obviously, Jammu and Kashmir also needs safety, security, and surveillance in e-governance initiatives. Today, for this session, we have with us Shri Suresh Kumar, Principal Secretary, Department of Home, Government of Jammu and Kashmir. May I please request Shri Suresh Kumar to kindly join us on the dais. Thank you, sir. We also have with us Shri Bipul Pathak, Commissioner Secretary, Department of Science and Technology and Information Technology, Government of Jammu and Kashmir. Shri Rajesh Agarwal, Secretary, IT, Government of Maharashtra. Sir has been a regular supporter of all our events and initiatives by us. Shri Syed Javed Mushtaba Gilani, Inspector General of Police Crime, Jammu and Kashmir. He shall be joining us soon on the dais. Shri Balaji Rao, Director Sales, VMware. Welcome on the dais, sir. Shri Lokesh Lohia, Business Development Manager, Physical Safety and Security, Cisco. May we have Shri Lohia on the dais, please. Thank you, sir. Shri Bhupesh Bhan, Director Sales, Dell. Welcome, Mr. Bhan. Very soon we shall also be having the presence of Shri Shankar Agarwal, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Defence, Government of India, who shall be joining us soon. And Dr. B. Srinivas. I now hand over the session to our session chair, Shri Suresh Kumar. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I must thank Vipul for having given us this opportunity to come and share the experiences that other states are doing on the very valuable aspect of safety, surveillance, and security. As you know that the cyberspace, as it is called now, it has expanded. It's like a ocean, and all kind of individuals are operating in this, good or bad, where it has given opportunities for good intentioned individuals to work, collaborate, connect, and compete for the betterment. It also has given opportunity to the so-called inimical forces. I don't have to specifically name them, you understand them, whether they are anti-nationals or economic offenders or any kind of people, that they also can utilize this cyberspace opportunity to really bring a lot of damage to the system. Other issue is that whether what we are putting in the cyberspace, whether it's our personal information, organization, or the government information, is it safe from someone else misusing it? There are a lot of issues in this. I can, from my little experience, I can tell you that everything on the cyberspace is not absolutely safe and secure. So there is a need that we take effective measures, whether in terms of protocols, software development to counter these forces, or even think 2 steps ahead of these people who are out to damage the system. Today, as the economy is expanding, as the world is shrinking, various kind of players are coming up. As I said, not very favorable to the public order or security and whatever. So we must need to move away from traditional system of security, from the normal crime control system to the more effective one where we use the technology. As the number that the population is so much that humanly now it is not possible to track each and every activity, transaction that is happening in the cyberspace. So need now is to use technology so that we have more automatic system. It may not be a perfect substitute for the human intelligence, but still the routine kind of a work that a person is supposed to do and some kind of intelligence system which is developed, it put to use in tracking the crime and who are out to damage our security. I guess I am not an expert in security. I just happen to be the principal secretary of the Home Department, whose one of the the responsibility is the internal security and law and order and policing and all those things. We like to hear from the expert, but some of the issues which I have flagged is how we use the information technology to counter crime, to prevent crime, and provide a sense of security and safety to the citizen. With these few words, I think I open the discussion for in this today's session, and welcome all the distinguished participants who are on the dais to share their views. Thank you very much.
So I would like to invite Bhupesh to share his thoughts. You can sit here also if you feel like. If you want to come here on the dais, you can come here.
Firstly, I would like to thank Mr. Pathak. It's our endeavor to partner with forward-looking and progressive governments globally. And our meetings with Mr. Pathak and the Honorable Minister of State have actually been very encouraging, and we passionately think about it. Knowing very well the challenge that the state faces today, especially the Valley, this subject of security surveillance becomes very critical and needs to be addressed, I would say ASAP. Not taking much time, but just opening up the debate and having others to participate in, there are various levels to security surveillance when we look at IT. One domain could be, as the last speaker said, could be the cybercrime, controlling the cybercrime to an extent whichever is possible, because it's a continuous rat race, I would say, between those guys who want to hack and between the agencies who want to control the hacking. Second realm could be the CCTV surveillance, which goes with the Home Department. The CCTV surveillance again plays a very important part in ensuring critical installations are manned automatically and seamlessly, and the intelligence that we get from them can prove very crucial. The third part of it, which I would like to share, is digital forensics, where we really don't focus our attention much on. What digital forensics does is to give you a fast, speedy recovery of data and various facets when there is a crime that's been committed. So there are various solutions, products available globally. We have an opportunity to work with Scotland Yard to incorporate and implement their digital forensics. It ensures that you have a timely retrieval of the evidence and various other, I'll say, facets of the crime scene. So I'm just opening it up for the other panelists who can put light on the seriousness of this issue and how important it's for the state at this point in time.
I think in the beginning, I'll ask each participant to share their thoughts, and then I'll invite some suggestions, or anyone have to say something on the issue. Come, please introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Rajesh Agarwal, Secretary IT Maharashtra. since the topic of CCTV came up, in Mumbai we are trying to set up a state-of-the-art CCTV network with about 6,000 cameras, all interconnected, so which will use about
I would like to welcome Shri Shankar Agarwal ji, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Defence, for joining us on the dais. Thank you, sir. Please continue, Mr. Agarwal.
Okay. See, on the topic of CCTVs, one is in individual life, I see a lot of my staff, both husband and wife are working. They put small CCTV cameras costing 2,000-3,000 rupees in their homes. And they are really assured if they have a small kid at home or their home is secure. So that really is an upcoming market. Mumbai has huge number of housing societies. Almost all of them have some kind of CCTV coverage. Now you see a lot of incidents happening in moving cars and buses, unfortunately. Some molestation cases of the kids by the bus conductors or somebody else, even in the school buses. So many school buses in Mumbai, even the private schools, they are putting up small equipment with a portable router and some kind of bandwidth and some kind of cameras, so that parents can basically sitting at home see what is happening in the bus. Has the kid boarded the bus? Is he safe? And that is now even being offered at 100 rupees per parent kind of thing by private companies. So the school does not invest, government does not invest. So that kind of model is coming up. And scaling it up at a city level. So in Mumbai, we are trying to set up 6,000 cameras, each interconnected. So we'll be putting about 20 gigs of bandwidth in the whole thing. So it's about 600 crore rupees project. And where we are trying to integrate ENPR, automatic number plate recognition. So we are putting cameras at all the basically entry and exit points into Mumbai. And even some basic facial recognition features. And in the last few years, in the last 5-6 years, the facial recognition has improved dramatically. So coupled with all these new technologies, cities can become safer. Already in Navi Mumbai, we have about 300 cameras already in place. And in last 3 months, a lot of changes have occurred. Many of you would have seen almost live footage of a builder being shot and killed on the footpath of Navi Mumbai. So that was very beautifully captured in the CCTVs put up as a part of this project. Similarly, many other 3-4 robbery cases have been solved in Navi Mumbai. 3-4 traffic cases where the wrong guy could have been convicted. A huge truck and a car accident where 2 kids in the car got killed instantaneously. If the video coverage was not there, the truck driver would have been behind the bars. But the video coverage clearly showed he was not at fault. The car was at fault at much higher speed. The video coverage from 3 angles was beautiful. So it changes the ball game. And they are also now moving to evidence-based traffic challans. So we don't have to put traffic constables on the road. The cameras are capturing everything. So sitting in a control room, you can just send the challans to people's home. And they can be confronted with the video evidence. So people are paying up. So that way, some of these projects can be slightly self-sustainable, not fully self-sustainable, but in the private sector, in the transport at homes, in housing societies, obviously there are business models which make them sustainable. So CCTV is one kind of thing which makes our cities and our general life more safe and secure. And Mumbai has seen a lot of incidents. 93 bomb blasts, then train blasts, bus blasts, Kasab coming from the sea route. So we have practically seen everything, and we feel this kind of coverage is important. And coupled with basically air coverage, now Home Ministry is coming with some 7-8 cities they are trying to cover with drones and all. So that kind of aerial coverage, aerial surveillance through cameras, so that can make cities safer. So I will at the moment restrict to these points, and maybe once all the participants are rotated, we will address some other part.
Thank you, Mr. Agarwal. I would now request one of the police officers, one of the finest police officers in J&K, Mr. B. Srinivas, to share his thoughts on surveillance. He has a lot of experience of working in difficult times in the Kashmir Valley. So I have great regard for him personally because I have worked very closely with him for almost 2 years, and I would request him to share his thoughts now. Thank you.
Thank you, Vipul. My name is Srinivas. I represent the intelligence wing of the J&K Police. Generally, intelligence wing people do not get into the public domain, but having been asked to do so, I will definitely place a few thoughts which I am sure that are already in the public domain, but I will try to put them in a perspective and place it before you. So when we, in terms of the e-governance initiatives from the intelligence wing, or what we call as CAD wing in J&K, the only interface that we have with people, and the most important part relates to the passport verifications and issuance of the passports. Over a period of time, we have graduated to the extent that now we complete the verification processes and see that any applicant who applies gets his passport delivered at his doorstep in 60 days' time. In fact, in J&K government, there is something called a Public Service Guarantee Act, which makes it mandatory for us to see that all these formalities are completed from our end, that is in terms of the verifications, and we see that they reach the passport office. From there, the passports are made and are delivered to the people, whoever applies for this. It may be in terms of the Hajj passports, which people for whom we deal on priority, and the general passports for the students and other things. The second category is the verifications of the students who get into jobs here or elsewhere in the country. I'm sure some of the corporates who are here, you're all doing the programs like Udan and Himayat, where a lot of youngsters are being recruited from here and they are being placed. These are the kind of verifications. These are the places where we have a direct public interface. Coming to the intelligence organizations and other kinds of interface, where we have the private domain, I'm sure some of the people who are from the state are maybe very well aware, and for the benefit of some of the people out here, I think the concept of computer or e-governance came into our state, at least into the security establishments in J&K somewhere around 93, 94, when we had the first computers with WordStar and D-based programs operating with us on a Pentium 1, Pentium 2 type of computers. From there we moved a long way and today we claim to be reasonably well placed when we compare ourselves with the rest of the country in terms of our security initiatives, in seeing that we hold on to the security parameters with great grip and also with a lot of finesse, and without impinging onto the private lives of the individuals. Just to give you a thought about the kind of technological literacy and that this state has, the general impression for people who come from outside think that it's a far-off place where you don't have that kind of a wherewithal and infrastructure. But on one count, this state has progressed quite fast, that is in terms of the mobile communication and technology. Our population is about 1 crore 25 lakhs, 1.25 crores. And you'll be amazed to know that the number of people in the age group of say some 12 to 65, that could be the age where people would be using the mobile phones, is not more than 40 to 45 lakhs. And the number of SIM cards, as I speak to you, which are in operation today in J&K is 78 lakhs. 78 lakh mobile phones are in operation in J&K today. And to add to it, among them, that is where the problem comes to us in terms of the intelligence agencies and the security establishment. 69 lakhs of them, I mean, barring 6 lakh, 69 lakh people use their prepaid cards, which they keep changing once in 2 months, once in 3 months. It is here that we find the governance initiative in the private domain to see that they don't go into the wrong hands. I think that is where the security establishment, whether it is the wing I represent or the sister wings which are in the verification of all these SIM cards, and the kind of problems we face impinging onto the national security, I'm sure you're all well aware. That is the greatest challenge as e-governance initiative for us, but definitely in a private domain, which happens inside the closed doors. In terms of our literacy in the state is far less. If I am correct, it's about around 23% of the literacy. But if you look at the literacy on the GPRS-enabled mobile phones, you will be again amazed to know the number of GPRS mobile phones in the state is 32 lakhs. 32 lakh GPRS-enabled phones are in circulation in the state. And I'm sure the number of iPhones and Blackberries which are in circulation vis-a-vis the proportion of the population is far, far, far greater compared to other cities which most of you represent. That is the kind of the advancement we have, and that is the kind of exchange of information and various kinds of activity that take place on the mobile telephony and mobile network out here. As we look into our own infrastructure, the physical infrastructure security, we're all well placed, whether it is intelligence organizations or security organizations. The difference between the security organizations and the many other organizations to which most of you belong is the document security. It is the documentation in the security organizations. We do classify papers, whether it is secret, top secret, or confidential. It is seldom that we find in the mini civil and other organizations. The same applies when it comes to the cyber security. So one of the speakers was talking about the cyber security earlier. It is in the cyber security paradigm that we find that most of the departments, one, they do not have the background of it, and number two, they do not get sensitized about the sensitivity of the issues, that their computers, their software systems, and their cyber activities can be impinged upon and can be breached upon, and that could create a havoc, especially in a state like us. And that is the mandate that we have to see that our departments, most of the civil departments which we have in the government, no hostile agency penetrates into these systems. We have a couple of our departments in the recent past which got hacked, and the systems have been penetrated upon by the hostile neighbors, but that is where we get in and do the kind of governance. As I was mentioning, it is not in the public domain, but we do these kind of activities. A major problem that we have been finding in the recent past is the issue of the social media. But before I come to the social media, I'll give you a few examples, rest of the country also, as to how these initiatives in terms of the monitoring of the systems of the communication has helped us. The latest being what is happening in the IPL. It is not just the money that is the issue of interest for any one of us. It is the issue of somebody sitting somewhere who is trying to do, one, economic subversion, second, telling upon our own national security, trying to tell upon our own economic infrastructure. These are the places where I think the sensitivity of handling our own systems and seeing that they don't get breached upon by the hostile neighbors. Most of the people who got involved in these kind of activities, I am sure they are not aware or not, they got into it by any design, at least to the extent of the national security. But it does happen that people do get into it, and our systems get breached, and it tells upon the national security. And this is where the request to the organizers and also to the departments is to have capsule courses on sensitization of your own systems. In a computer, the only code, secret or top secret, you have your own email password or the password for your computer, but still you are susceptible, and the kind of proliferation that takes place in our systems. And more so in a state like us where we have two monsters in our neighbor, so it becomes extremely sensitive for us to see that we don't get breached upon by the hostile neighbors. A few cases, I'm sure some of you must be representing the corporates here. The Radia tapes is a classic case of how corporate governance also got breached upon. In terms of the crime, criminal intelligence and criminal investigation, I'm sure a couple of officers have already spoken. I'll just give you the current case that is going on in the court, is the Arushi murder case, where the functioning of the router in the night, on that particular night when the incident happened, is something which is standing as a major evidence to prove the guilt or otherwise of the people who are involved. So these are the governance initiatives, but the bottom line is we need to attend to these sensitivities. The last issue which I thought I'll flag is the issue of social media. Social media is spreading quite fast, and we have systems on the GPRS-enabled phones, also on the systems, where we have very little to see that we can monitor, whether it is voice over internet protocols, phone calls, or whether it is Skype, whether it is WhatsApp, Viber, and so many other applications that are there. We have not yet graduated enough to see that we can monitor these things, and it is these sites on which the corporate governance or the e-governance will be challenged in the days to come. I'm sure all of us are aware in the past 3 years, these are the social media tools that have changed the destiny of the nation. All dictatorships, regimes have faced it, whether it is Tunisia, whether it is Egypt, whether it is the current ongoing problem in Syria or the recent past in the case of Libya. These are the places where social media, because of the dictatorship, suddenly they created a kind of a frenzy in the system, and you saw what happened in terms of the overthrow of the governments. It is not that social media tools have not been put into practice by the people here, but democracies have their own way of handling it. I'm sure at least I can cite 2 cases in our own country where we had this kind of an activity by the social media, one being the Aam Aadmi and Anna Hazare movement. The whole town of Delhi was moving to one side talking about the corruption. But that is where in the private domain, governments and the government initiatives in the e-governance had their own counter-propaganda tools to see that the protests or the kind of frenzy is brought to a manageable level with no loss of life and with no national embarrassment. It is here that you have the hostile neighbors who try to influence our social media, which is not in the public domain. I mean, it is for the practitioners of the security establishment to gauge the mood of the people and also to see that we don't get carried away by the hostile neighbors or hostile agents who try to get onto our systems and to create a kind of subversion to our own system. The second was Aam Aadmi activity, and of course, the recent being the gatherings at the South Block and North Block when the gang rape incident took place. Everybody talked about the protests, everybody talked about the kind of agony that people went through at the time and the kind of sensitivity that got associated with it. But I think very little credit went to the security establishment there in Delhi, which solved the case just because of that government initiative of holding, monitoring the systems that were available in terms of the people who were involved, the driver of the bus. These are the initiatives they do not get into public domain, but I assure you, I am sure the security establishments in this place, I am sure in the rest of the country, are quietly but successfully handling these initiatives. We always maintain the stand that we need to try 100 times and we need to succeed all the 100 times. The other side, the hostile agent need to succeed only once. I need to fail once. So the balance of equation is definitely not in my favor, but we cannot afford to fail because any failure here would mean it very damaging kind of a repercussion that we have. So coming back to the issue is the sensitivity of the organizations in e-governance initiatives to see that we get sensitized. There is one issue, I am sure, most of the participants, I am sure, when the people from the security establishment raise these issues, sometimes we will be seen on the side of being perverse or sometimes even being eccentric and becoming overcautious about these security requirements. We do appreciate, but at the same time, the other system, the civil systems and other systems in the civil departments are too porous because of the non-sensitivity sensitization programs that you have in the systems. Coming to the other activities of the monitoring of the phones or other systems, we appreciate everybody's privacy also, but you also appreciate the sensitivity of the national security. I think we need to somewhere reconcile the requirements of the national security and also the sensitivities that are associated with the privacy of the individuals. And I think once we strike a balance, I am sure the initiatives, whether it is in the security paradigm or rest of the paradigms, will take us a long way. Thank you.
Thank you, Srinivas. I would now request to change the flavor of the forum, Mr. Balaji Rao to share his thoughts.
So maybe I will bring in a slightly different perspective in terms of addressing some of the challenges. Not all can be addressed, sir, but I will lead to some of the areas coming from a virtualization major who's VMware. There are a few areas that we have really been able to help in terms of, especially you were talking about the data lying on the desktops and hostile neighbors taking away the data and exposure there being a big security concern. So some of the technologies that are evolving in this area that governments and private sector is adopting today, one of them is on the desktop virtualization side itself. So if you look at those technologies, the ability to not have the data on the desktop at all. So you're talking about securing your data right within your data center and all users have is plain vanilla access to the data which is in the lock, stock and barrel within the data center, which can be secured, which can be firewalled in multiple ways, and that there is no way that it can be hacked, given that you can have a greater level of security in a central place. But at the same time, it does not hamper the mobility or the efficiency of the end users, given the fact that the same data can be published on a mobile device for officers on the field in remote areas. Whereas again, there is no data that lies on those tablets or devices or any one of those mobile devices that people are using today. So a way of securing the data, a way of ensuring that the data lies right within the data center with access available to everybody on different devices across the country. So that is a small way of solving one of those challenges which are there. But given that there are more challenges right within the data center also, and as we heard from the keynote speak also on the fact that there is an ability to hack right within the data center. So centralization is good. We have e-governance applications, but now we have all the data centrally. They are not lying in different places across different applications. So the centralization brings in its own challenges of, if data is taken from the central place, there is a lot of data that goes away. And that is a risk in itself. So how do we ensure that that data which is lying centrally within the data center is secured to the fullest? There are various ways of securing the data. One of the ways is virtualization. Again, there has brought in significant benefits. I guess when we have too many manual methods of running the IT infrastructure, it leads to a lot of challenges. When you automate the whole data center in the form of how it runs, the operations, and how do you secure the whole thing in an automated fashion where the system takes care of the whole thing, is probably one way of ensuring data security right within the data center. Just to give you a flavor of automation, when you actually use a virtual environment to host the e-governance applications and all the other applications that you have, including surveillance and including all that sensitive data that you carry, the security is fairly mobile. It can respond to threats. So if there is a challenge, the system takes a call as to how it wants to respond to that particular challenge. That is the kind of automation that we are talking about in a virtual infrastructure. So the ability to secure your end user infrastructure, the ability to secure the data center, the ability to automate your entire security process, including compliance, given the fact that there are a lot of compliance parameters that are to be followed in a data center to ensure that the data is secure, including hardening of OS and a lot of other things that are done as routine activity. So this whole thing can be automated using virtualization and cloud, which is one of the so-called buzzwords that we are all talking about today. And the ability that infrastructure has to respond to threats and ability to take corrective action and the ability to secure the data is one of the key components and outputs of the technology of virtualization, both on the desktop side and on the server side as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rao. Now I request Mr. Lohia from Cisco to share his thoughts. Yeah, click. Just project on. You can try to, I can ask. Let's
Yeah.
Well, in the meantime, when he's setting up his computer, then I would request IG Crime. You have to make a presentation? Oh, okay, then we'll have to wait then. Yeah, maybe. Sir, are you? In the meantime, I would request Mr. Shankar Agarwal, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Defence, Government of India, to share his thoughts, and in the meantime we'll set up the... yeah, sure, sir, you can come in.
You are sitting? Yeah, it's okay. Huh? No, I don't want anything. But if you want, you can continue. If you are secretary also. Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Secretary, Ministry of Communication and Information Technology, Department of, I'm forgetting the new name of this department, but Department of Communication and Department of Information Technology, that's Shri Satyanarayan Ji.
Its name is DT, sir. No, it's called
DT, actually. It has been deified, I understand that. Distinguished panelists on the dais, ladies and gentlemen. It's my privilege to be here this afternoon and to share some of the views on the security related to ICT. I'm no expert of ICT, so I'll not be able to tell you about the technology. And similarly, I'm no expert of defense also, so I'll not be able to tell you what we are doing in defense to make this country secure. But I can only tell you that you are absolutely in secure hand, 100% secure. There may be some skirmishes here and there, some kind of naughtiness on the part of our volatile neighbor, but rest assured, all of you and each one of you are in safe hand, and this country is 100% secure. Having said that, let me now come to the main topic of ICT. As you know, that ICT is an extremely powerful tool. While it can be used for the betterment of the society, on the other hand, lot of people are trying to make use of ICT to make our lives a little more miserable. And that's a constant struggle between these two sides. And when we say that ICT is meant for the betterment of the society, what does it mean? It means basically to bring in more happiness, peace, and prosperity to the citizen of this country. And that can be brought in, to my mind, by focusing on 3-4 factors. The first and the foremost is the security of an individual and security of the nation. When we talk about the security of the nation, that means the external security. And when we talk about the security of individual and security of the property of an individual, that's basically the internal security. And we can make use of ICT in a very big way to ensure that each and every person is secured and the territorial integrity of the country is maintained. Second area where we can make use of ICT for the betterment of the society is food and shelter. And again, this means to create more and more employment opportunities, because unless you create employment opportunities, we will not be able to create a mechanism which is sustainable mechanism for ensuring food and shelter for each and every citizen of the country. And the third, and again a very important facet, is self-respect and life with dignity. And that means we got to create an environment which is based on equality and freedom, and that means we got to empower every citizen of this country, and that can be brought in by providing, by imparting good quality education to each and every student of this country, and secondly, by giving them access to institutional finance so that a lot of people, a lot of young, bright boys and girls, they can start their own enterprises, and that will result in a lot of employment opportunities. And finally, the health services. Now, let me come to the ICT for security, because I'll be confining my discussion on ICT for security. Now, when we talk about the ICT for security, we have to ensure that this animal is 100% peaceful, secure, resilient, and open environment. And when we talk about the security, that means that again two parts. One is preventive and second is punitive. And when we talk about the preventive, that means basically the surveillance of persons and the places, as the Principal Secretary IT Maharashtra has said, that with the use of ICT in the surveillance area, we can make this country much more secure and peaceful. In the recent months, you must have seen, you must have read in newspaper, there are a lot of hue and cry, especially in respect of crimes against women. And had we installed some gadgets in buses, at our chaurahas, at other vantage points, we surely could have nabbed those culprits well in time, and we could have prevented that crime to occur. Secondly is regarding places. When we talk about the places, again along the boundary also, but the entire boundary, as you know, that India has got a very perforated international border, and in many places even the border is not very well defined, and that requires huge effort. And I must tell you that we are using the latest gadgets, the latest technology, to keep each and every inch of our border under constant surveillance. Coming to the punitive side, first in that area is preparedness. Again, you must have read in newspaper, and the former chief of army, he raised this issue that Indian army is not very well prepared to take care of our volatile neighbors. But facts are a little otherwise. We are fully prepared, but for the preparation, we got to infuse technology in a big way. I give only a very small example. Like battlefield information system is a huge, big project. That means, as you must have read in Mahabharata, when the Mahabharata was being fought, all old guys and Vedavyas was able to write on the basis of the exact information on what was happening at the battlefield. Similar kind of a situation or similar kind of a mechanism is now being created for the Indian Army as well, under the system called Battlefield Information System, so that the entire information on the real-time basis would be captured, would be available to all those who are required to know about that information. So that a person sitting in Delhi would know exactly what is happening at the border, at the Chinese border, at Pakistan border, and he or she will be able to guide and to pass commands to the concerned person, to the concerned even the tank, what is to be done, where to move, whom to target, and what is to be done. And now in the complex situation where integration is required, earlier Indian Army was taking one position, the Air Force was taking another position, but today we have to go in for an integrated kind of a system, and the Indian Army and the Air Force and other wings of the armed forces, they have to work in tandem, and that requires a lot of decision making, a lot of command and control decisions on a real-time basis. And many of these decisions cannot be taken by the guys who are on the field. And that is now we are trying to achieve as a huge project. In addition to that, we require introduction and infusion of technology in arms and ammunition, in infrastructure, capacity building and training, again a huge area. And finally, the communication and awareness. We got to make people aware, we got to keep our Jawans informed what is being done, what is not being done, what is happening, what is not happening. And now let me come to the specifics of the security issues. When we talk about the security of ICT, that means security of information, security of infrastructure, security of networks, security of applications. And when I talk about infrastructure, that means basically the data centers as well. Now, to take care of the security of ICT, the first and the foremost concern is the legal framework. Though we have created enough provision within our Act, IT Act, however, at the international level, still a lot of work has to be done under the legal framework. I just give a small example. Many of the critical information is being stored in India, though it belongs to, say, US or to some other country in Europe. Now, when it is being stored in India, what kind of laws are applicable? Whether the law of US is applicable on this, or whether the law of India is applicable on this, and if there is a theft of that information, who will take punitive action against that act of theft? Whether we can allow US to take action, or we have to take action as per our law. Our laws may not be sufficient or may not give enough confidence to the government of, say, US or to the citizen of US. So we got to create an appropriate legal framework across the world, and it means basically two kinds of things. One is a mandatory provision, and the second is some kind of a code of conduct or how to behave in those particular situations. Second is administrative framework. I was talking to Dr. Gulshan Rai, who is taking care of the CERT-in, but we have got only one CERT-in. It's a huge and very complex country, and as you know, all the state governments are very, very powerful, states. Now, under these circumstances, it is very necessary to create a similar kind of organization in each and every state. We must have a certain kind of an organization in every state. Otherwise, today what is happening, most of the information is with the state governments, and state governments do not know anything about the security of ICT, security of the information. And even if it means funding state governments from the central government, we must create a mechanism so that we can fund such activities at the state government level. Then the strategies. We had to devise new and new strategies. As I said in the beginning, there is a constant struggle between these two sides. One side which is trying to make use of ICT for the betterment of the society, another side which is trying to take advantage of ICT to create problems for the society. For that, we require strategies, and these strategies have to be dynamic in nature. And when we talk about the strategies, that means we have to sit together with academia, with industry, with private sector, with civil society, and collectively we have to evolve such strategies. And thereafter we have to take measures, that means the operational issues. Second part is the capacity building. As I said a little earlier, that we got to create certain in the state government, but in addition to that, we got to create enough capacities across the country, and especially at the state government level. At the state government level, we do not have any resources who understand the security issues related to ICT. Last year I had gone to UP, and I was discussing about the security of cyber security and the ICT, and they did not have any idea what is being done and what should be done, what are the preventive measures. They are very rudimentary knowledge. I personally feel, and I would request Secretary DIT to create a framework under which we can build capacities at the state government level, especially in the area of cyber security. And now, sir, I'll just give some synopsis of an executive order which has been issued by the President of USA recently. And this was issued in February 12, 2013. And these are related to improving critical infrastructure and the cyber security I'll give you the main features of this executive order. And these executive orders have been studied by the Government of India. We are also trying to take whatever we can take from these orders, though we had already taken some of the steps which have been mentioned in this executive order. And this executive order has been issued under the signature of President Obama. And before I come to the main feature, I'll just read the 2 lines from the preamble, which says that the cyber threat to the critical infrastructure continues to increase and represent one of the most serious national security challenges. It is much more challenging today than an external, say, excursion from China or from Pakistan. It defines the policy of the US to enhance the security and resilience of the nation's critical infrastructure and to maintain a cyber environment that encourages efficiency, innovation, and economic prosperity while promoting safety, security, business confidentiality, privacy, and civil liberties. And now I come to the main feature of this executive order. First, it says, this EO defines what is critical infrastructure as the system, etc. I am not going into the definition. Second, it delineates the responsibilities between various government bodies like National Institute of Science and Technology, Department of Homeland Security, which is equivalent to our Ministry of Home Affairs, defense industrial bodies, and the private sector for improving critical infrastructure cyber security. And I would underline this word, private sector. When we talk about the cyber security, the role of the private sector is very, very important, and especially in respect of ICT. It calls for the information sharing and the policy coordination amongst all stakeholders to protect critical infrastructure. It also underlines the need for protection of privacy and civil liberty. I do not know, when I was in DIT at that point of time, I think DOPT was undertaking an exercise to enact a law on the privacy issues, because when we talk about the cyber security, it is possible to look into every aspect of an individual. That means we would be intruding into the privacy of an individual, and that is not acceptable in any civilized society. However, to take care of the security, there has to be some kind of a intrusion. So we have to strike a balance, and for that we got to have a policy framework and a legal framework so that each and every individual will feel safe. The next main feature of this policy is it envisages a consultative process to coordinate improvements to the cyber security of critical infrastructure. We cannot issue farmans from, say, Defense or from Ministry of Home Affairs or, say, from DIT. It has to be a consultative process, and when I say consultative process, that means we got to consult the civil society as well. And then it says, for this purpose, a cyber security framework would be evolved that provides cross-sector security standards and guidelines for the critical infrastructure. It also, it means the executive order stipulates specific time frame for action to be taken by various US agencies in pursuance of different aspects of EO. So that means under these orders, everybody has been given, all agencies have been given a definite time frame, and all agencies are expected to complete their responsibilities, complete their work which has been assigned to them in the given time frame. And finally it says, it directs, the President of US directs the federal agencies, that means the central government agencies, to develop voluntary cyber security standards for critical parts of the private sector and to consider proposing new mandates where possible under existing law, noting that the standards need to be tailored for specific sectors in a partnership with stakeholders of those sectors. And this is very, very important when we talk about the standards, because unless we evolve standards, we will not be able to share information, we will not be able to make use of information in a very, very meaningful manner. On the other hand, when we start adhering to standards, we lose little bit of creativity, we lose little bit of our control. So we got to strike a balance. So I'll stop here, and I would only urge that let us sit together, let's try to create a legal framework, let's try to create an administrative framework, and thereafter we must create strategies which will be dynamic in nature, and we have to sit with academia, we have to sit with industry, we have to sit with private sector, and we have to sit with the civil society. I am extremely grateful to the state government of J&K and the organizer of this conference for having invited me over here. It gives me an opportunity to be a part, or not only a part of this conference, but also to visit this wonderful place, which is unparalleled anywhere in the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I would like to invite Javed now to come and share his perspective.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's fine. Esteemed panelists, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Javed Gilani and I am IG Crime J&K. So I'll confine this presentation to the advancement in use of information technology in the police for effectively tackling the crime. As we all know, as sir had already said, the computerization in the state and in J&K police started in the early 90s, and it was then that the National Crime Record Bureau had launched its project CCIS, which was the Crime Criminal Information System. And the aim of this project was to collect information from all the states about crime and criminals and then put them in a centralized database so that it can be used for collation and further analysis later. And it was modified from time to time, and it was then that computers were installed in almost all the offices of J&K police. The basic emphasis and the use of computers was basically to replace the manual work and to update various records. Then in the year 2000 and 2003, the personal information system and the offline payroll versions were introduced. In 2006, the CCIS was replaced by another project, which was the CPA. And in this, only a few police stations of each state were taken on a pilot basis, and in J&K, 23 police stations were covered. Then afterwards, we had certain advancements in connectivity, so we installed lease lines, we had a video conferencing system, and now almost all the units of the J&K police are today connected either through the NIC network or the VPN. The centralized personal information system was introduced a couple of years back, and now we are working on a threat management system software which would be able to collect all the incidents that have happened over the last many years, and then based on those incidents we are able to analyze and forecast future events. One of the major projects that the Ministry of Home Affairs has now launched for modernization and computerization and networking of the police forces is the CCTNS. So I will primarily talk about the CCTNS. Now the CCTNS is the aim of the CCTNS project is to modernize the core policing functions and provide information sharing for better investigation and detection of crime and also tracking of criminals. This is basically the main architecture of the CCTNS. It envisages that all police stations and all police offices are connected to a state data center, and then the state data centers are interconnected so that information from one state can be shared with the other state. We have seen that there have been a large number of projects which have been taken up earlier, and they have failed primarily because the emphasis was on data collection and also data duplication. So feeding data into the computers was seen as an extra work by people, so they didn't take it seriously because one, it was only data collection, so it didn't help in improving their functionality. So they thought that this is a burden on them, it doesn't help them in any way, so why do it at all? So this is where the CCTNS tries to improve upon it, that there isn't one dedicated person in the police station who has to record all these things into the computer and then it goes through the network into the data center. Now every person in the police station is actually a node. So whatever information he has to feed on his own or which he generates on his own, it goes into the network. And so the database is created automatically. Then it has also a portal for the citizens. So even the people get benefited because they can file their complaints through it, they can get their verifications done faster. And it also creates a platform where police forces across the country can share information with each other about criminals and about repeat offenders. Now, the key stakeholders in the CCTNS obviously are the police personnel, the senior police officers, and the citizens at large. Now, what does it do? It benefits the police in certain ways. As I said, you get enhanced tools for investigation and tracking of criminals. You have a centralized database where you can look at the images and compare them. It reduces your workload. Then it also has benefits for the public at large, because you can access the police not by physically going there, but also through multiple channels. You can also track your petitions and FIRs, and you can get your verifications, etc. done. And if you see that it's capsulated, how it helps the police officers and how it helps the public at large. In J&K, the project is for connecting 294 locations, and the date of completion would be August 2014. That's all, thank you.
So now I would request the audience if somebody has any question or any, okay, your problem is solved. Please come. Yeah, please come. From Cisco, sorry.
Sorry about the delay, sometimes technology also fails. Very quickly, Cisco is a technology company. Of course, we are known as more as a networking company globally. We are the global leaders, but we have recently started our connected safety and security solutions as well. We have been pretty active in India in the last 3-4 years, particularly in the domain what we call as urban security. So urban security basically covers smart city surveillance projects. It covers critical infrastructures, sensitive buildings, places like prisons, airports, and so on. So Rajesh in fact spoke about the Navi Mumbai project. So Cisco was the technology provider for Navi Mumbai, where the entire safety and security solution, right from the network which is connecting the entire city to the edge cameras and the video analytics software, everything came from Cisco. So this was recently inaugurated just a week back or so, probably one of the smartest city surveillance projects in India today. So based on our various surveys across India, because India is a different geography when we compare it with any other global country, the solutions have been developed more for the West. But does that really work in an Indian condition? So what we had done in the last 2-3 years, we have done a lot of survey, including some proof of concepts and demos in live conditions across India, including Mumbai, Navi Mumbai, Gujarat, Haryana, Chandigarh, Hyderabad, and so on. And we found that probably we have created an architecture. Being a technology company, we give a tool to the security personals which can act as a deterrent, which can act as a tool to detect incidents and respond. It's not replacing anything, right? And this is a vision what we created, from a public safety and security perspective, where the first and most important thing is that everything needs to be connected. So whether it's the places that you need to secure, whether it's the people that you need to secure, whether it's the security personals themselves who have to respond when any incident happens, all of them have to be connected. And we had some discussion on the virtualization part of it, how you can have such a huge security deployment. So it can happen only when we virtualize, or something we call as the cloud solutions today. What is also important is a partnership with the private bodies, right? There are hotels, there are hospitals, private hospitals, there are malls, and there are a lot of security breaches that can happen here. So we also need to connect them to basically the security in charge, or to the command control center, or to the control room, right? So this is the architecture that we have envisaged, and based on which we have come up with some technology products and solutions. So what I'll do is I'll just quickly show you some scenarios, right? And first I'll show you the architecture which Cisco has created. So what we see on the top is basically a command and control center. What we see in between is the different point solutions. We hear about CCTV, we hear about video analytics, and so on. And the bottom layer is the network. Is the network where all this gets connected, right? And where your data is exchanged and response is initiated. Now let's see a scenario, like how do we make this work, right? What we see on your top left are the edge devices, or are the endpoints. Now this could be a traffic junction, this could be an entry of a city, this could be an entry of a building, right? What we do is you are putting some devices there, and this could be a simple camera, it could be an access reader, it could be a gunshot sensor, it could be anything. This edge devices today have become smart, and it can create alert, and it can send alert with some information. Now what happens is, once this edge devices creates alert, it sends to a control room. Now in the control room, what we do is we create standard operating procedures, and these are based on the incidents that have been detected. So for example, if there is an accident on the road, probably these are the 10 steps that I need to do. If there is a fire in a building, so these are the 10 steps which I need to do, probably communicate the fire brigade, or take relevant stakeholders on a call, and take some decisions and so on. So all that standard operating procedures are fed into the system, so the operator doesn't need to think what I have to do now, or search books for a solution. What it also does is that it does the first part, which is the video. Now there could be hundreds or thousands of cameras, like Mumbai is going for 6,000 cameras in a city, right? And it will keep on increasing, looking at the size of the city. It's not possible that you are going to see or detect each and every camera on a monitor. You may have a video wall where the camera streams coming in. So what the solution does is, if any incident is detected, probably that particular video pops up in that ward or in that city, depending on what that monitoring station is all about. So this video will come in front of the operator immediately, knowing that some incident has happened. What we can also do is we can send this video to multiple other agencies or stakeholders. Now probably if it's in a mall, you have the screens which are giving some advertisement or some messages. We can integrate that screens and send that alert message on that screen also. And this could be a simple message that there's a fire and this is the exit map. Or it could be a picture, it could be a video clip, or whatever. So anything is possible because all your systems are finally connected on a single platform. What we do more, and this is probably the most critical part for the security personnel, we integrate the communication system of the security team. Now most of the first responders are on UHF, VHF devices, or the walkie-talkie, or the push-to-talk kind of a devices, which work on a certain frequency and doesn't talk to each other, right? It doesn't talk to a normal mobile phone, for example. What we are able to do we are able to patch all these communication devices, bring it on a one platform, and create virtual groups. So if incident A has happened, and there's a particular group which will respond on that, on a click of button, that entire group gets connected. So not only they are able to share the information, so the first responder probably is saying what is happening, and there's a decision making who is sitting anywhere, who are able to exchange information and take decision at a real time. So your response becomes much quicker. Something this is which is pretty unique in terms of the complexity of integrating the different communication systems. So just quickly let me go through some more scenarios, and these are more specific scenarios where incident gets detected. It gets detected by a camera. Immediately it goes to a control room. Probably you are able to collaborate with different stakeholders on a video conferencing or any other video solution, and a fast decision is made. It can expand to a country level where you can connect various stakeholders depending if it's a national threat to the country. Again, the information can be exchanged, the camera feeds can be shared. Using the integrated communication solution, multiple people can be communicated. Now this is scenario 3 where there is probably a tourist or a citizen feeling threat, and which has become a common incident today. This is a solution where, if the citizen or tourist feels threatened, this is something called as a callback solution, which gets connected again to an IP backbone, to the same backbone of your security. On a press of a button, the tourist or the citizen gets connected to the control room, right? And the camera which is placed on the control room starts streaming that video back to the control room. So not only the control room is able to see the person or the scenario what's happening, it's able to communicate to that, basically the distraught caller also. At the same time, the control room can share this information to a security person who is closest to that location to come and respond on that solution. So some other things where you can probably lock some doors and make some barriers out of it. Now this is a case of a gunshot. So a lot of us knows that there are gunshot sensors available which can detect a gunshot, and the accuracy level today has gone very high, where it can detect between a gun or a bomb, a Diwali bomb kind of a thing, right? Or even an accident. So these sensors now can integrate and come on the same backbone which we have been talking, right? This detects the gunshot, it identifies the latitude and the longitude, that is exactly the location. It tells the camera to divert, if it's a moving camera, take that video, send it back to the control room, and again the same response mechanism that happens, right? So more or less what we see is it's more about an integrated safety and security solution, comes on a platform which is easy to integrate, and you are having a robust response mechanism. So let me just quickly show control room itself, how it looks. So this is just a recorded demo of an airport which was done in US. So what we see here is a map, and this could be a simple Google map, it could be a Bing map from Windows, it could be an AutoCAD drawing or a picture of your own, from your own library. What we can do is we can put all the security stakeholders, technologies, edge devices, products, everything onto this one single console. So for an operator, he has got complete visibility, and he can gather all the information, and he can respond to any incident that happens. Now some example here is you can even see the GPS devices. So if there are devices which are the response devices, GPS enabled, we can bring in to the control room. We can do zoning, which we see in the red line. So you can zone that these are sensitive area, these are non-sensitive areas. And just on some clicks, right, you can do a lot of things, like if I click here, I go to the second layer, which is probably a building. If I click again, I can probably go to a deeper layer where I can see multiple devices, like probably a fire alarm sensor, a camera, a public addressing system, access readers, and so on. Again, if I want to see a camera, and probably the camera which is showing me the alert, I just double click, and then the video comes, right? And what I'm seeing right now is probably the live video. But I want to also see what happened 5 minutes back, half an hour back, when the incident actually had happened. So I just press one more click, it gives me a recorded video. I just put in the time and date, whatever I want to put, press OK, the recorded video comes immediately. So what it makes is it makes operators' life easy. Instead of going into multiple systems, checking into multiple videos, what he can do is he can do everything from one single console, right? And there's a lot of features that he can do from here. He can take a snapshot, and on a click he can send it to multiple stakeholders. If he doesn't know what is the problem, he can just press a button, get it escalated to the highest security agency, right? He can take a recording or a video clip, store it as a separate storage, as a separate incident-based storage for future forensics and so on. There's one more feature which he can do is called as easy track, where he can track probably a person or a vehicle using the multiple cameras that are distributed across the place. Now, on the same page, we can see that, on an access control, if I go, right, I can do multiple functions on an access control solution also. I can lock a door, unlock a door, kind of a thing. Again, to do this, normally I would require 2 or 3 consoles to perform all these operations. What I am able to do it in one single console, right? So that's the beauty of the solution, is that this brings or integrates your entire security solution, including the stakeholders, onto one platform. This is something which we have just recently deployed at Navi Mumbai also. It's very much operational and can be seen by anybody, right, from the customer side. So that's all from my side from a presentation demo. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lohia. Now, I would request if anybody from the audience, they have some question, they can ask the question. Kindly pass on the mic to them.
Well, we have covered various aspects of security. There's just one thing coming to my mind. There's a challenge which states like Jammu and Kashmir face, that is the suicide bombers attacking, say, the army posts or the police posts. What's the solution you've thought about that? Thank you.
I'll put it in a very crude way we handle it. The case of suicide bombers is no longer there. We had this, the first instance of the suicide bomber we had was in February 2000, when we had a suicide bomber drove his car into the Badami Bagh camp, hardly 1.5 kilometers from the place where we are all now. That was the first instance where we had a bomber himself blew himself up. In fact, suicide bomber blowing himself up before installation had taken place only a couple of times. Once was near Badami Bagh army cantonment, and second time when a car, a Tata Sumo with a bomber drove itself into the Jammu Kashmir Assembly complex. Rest of the instances were the places where we have suicide squads sneaking into the camps. Here what happens is, these are the initiatives where the bomber or the suicide squad, the militant or the terrorist, whatever terminology you call, he is there getting into a place of his choice with a little bit of recce. But what used to happen, in fact we had about 50 to 60 incidences like this kind of attacks that we had, the sneak attacks, they're trying to getting into the camps. When it happened, initially we were taken by surprise because our systems were not tuned to it. But after the first 6-7, in fact in the first 6-7 we did give a lot of casualties from our end. Afterwards we have tightened up over the physical security. In fact, our physical infrastructure got tightened up, but there was no rocket science with us by which we could have prevented them. Now at that time we didn't have any mobile interception mechanisms. Now we have systems where we have the mechanism of intercepting the communications, whereby we get to know the plans, the strategies that are being opted by the suicide bombers or the squads. But again, to put it in a perspective, it is very rare that you get to know about the plan of a suicide squad, because the modules of the suicide squads always operate independently. If there are 2 people, suddenly they are brought in from a place, they are pushed into a campus and they go and they do their action. On our part, yes, preventive activity is in terms of the monitoring, and we do get to know the kind of actions that they do plan, and as a result what we do is we increase our physical surveillance and put more deployment patterns in those areas so that we avoid them. But otherwise, in terms, yes, the other thing that was being mentioned is about the video surveillance and CCTV surveillance. These things are, they did help us to see that they don't get access into the places, but the only solution that we have for this is better intelligence on technical intelligence and good physical security. Thank you.
Well,
Query from him. You referred about these, interceptions, and that I guess, one has to hear the telephone now, the voice stored in a particular thing, and if, large number of such conversations are there, is there any, software solution for that, by which it automatically gives you trigger that, some conversation of this sort has happened, which is required to be, probed further, rather than hearing it manually? Is there any some solution, available for this?
As, before
Today,
that,
there are large number of voice recognition software, and those are being used in a big way. First is basically the identification of suspects, and you identify the suspects through various mechanisms. Once you identify it, thereafter you do some kind of a surveillance. As he said, it's a physical surveillance, communication surveillance, and a whole lot of other things. And under the communication surveillance, you do make use of voice recognition software.
What I think I was mentioning that, for example, 5,000 conversations at a time you have recorded somewhere. Manually it is not possible to hear to each other, because it requires time, requires people. Is there anything which, gives automatically some suspicious kind of a conversation which can be, spotted? But the problem now is that these people, so to say, are also using, the coded language. They're not using the straightforward kind of a conversation that I'll go here, do this, that. Some kind of a coded, system, the language they're using. So is there some, kind of a software anywhere in the country, in the world rather, that can automatically give you a trigger that this particular conversation needs to be, tracked and looked into?
I think the most important part here is to build the data bank. When I say data bank, is that the whole basis is on voice recognition, as Mr. Agarwal put rightly. However, it's a data bank unless and until we are not able to use that data bank effectively and retrieval of intelligence within time, it's of no use. So there are pattern recognition solutions that are available. Even if there are 5,000 conversations happening simultaneously, you will get triggers based on filtering of which is the maximum closest probable voice that you are hearing. And you can filter it to a large extent to reduce the noise. So I would not say it's 100% foolproof, but there are governments globally. US is a big user. Even in Europe, number of countries do use proactively a lot of such solutions.
but I feel that nowadays these group of people don't use voice conversations at all. They are smarter people. They use with smartphones, they use the network, not voice. So it won't be any use. And coming back to my question, I feel that a solution is possible wherein you can prevent such attacks, a technical solution. There is a solution called non-clonable IT, which Delhi police used in Delhi during the Commonwealth Games. I can give the details later. Thank you.
First of all, I'm very happy that Mr. Agarwal has, underlined the need for respecting the privacy of individuals, because eavesdropping continues to be, and it has always been, a bad word. But my question is actually to Dr. Srinivasan and also to the Secretary IT Maharashtra. Suppose I get a threatening email or a spam, or which is the designated agency of the J&K police which I should approach, and what is the mechanism that they have that they will escalate the issue and maybe find the culprit? That is the specific question I have.
In J&K, you have two agencies. One is our cybercrime police station, which is there in Jammu as well as in Srinagar, or you can reach out to us from the CIDD, either of the places there in Jammu or Srinagar. I'm sure we'll work on it, and we have been working on this. We have been receiving this kind of things, and we have been acting upon those. This kind of
you can go to the police station,
Any police station for that matter. We do. We do have. Yeah, we do have. Yeah, we do.
Okay, I have a question for DGP Police. I saw a lot of projects on your slides which you have done with Ministry of Home Affairs. But looking at the technology issues in the J&K state per se, how do you cope up with getting the right people on the ground to execute those projects?
Now, in this case of CCTNS, because it's a project all over the country, so we had people coming from all over the country who have bid for this project. And in fact, the company which is doing is a Hyderabad-based company. So we have people who are now willing to come and work here, so that's not an issue.
My question is to Mr. Agarwal. Is there any plan of Government of India to put any system in place, just like the Homeland Security of US, like 911? So in case of any panic, how to create and respond to those situations?
You see, that's not a responsibility which has been given to the Ministry of Defense. However, in DIT, we were pursuing a project of this nature. I do not know the state of that project. We were trying to duplicate the similar kind of work in India for the entire country. So that you dial a particular number and there will be basically two kinds of services. One is emergency services and the second is a normal services. You could ask for any public service by dialing that particular number across the country. I do not know the status of that particular. No, we had identified, I still remember, 5 states. And I don't know what happened thereafter.
You want to go for this in Gujarat?
Yes, Gujarat was, I think Gujarat was one of the states. Yes. Sir, any update on that, sir?
So with the permission of the chair, I think it's a very interesting panel discussion in which there were several references. I will take a couple of minutes to update on some of the perspectives from DATI. First of all, let me say that we have been for the last couple of hours discussing on 2 aspects. One is security for IT and the other is IT for security. So these two need to be, though increasingly, the physical security and cyber security are converging into one, and there will come a time when you can't differentiate between them. Given that premise, let me make a few statements. First of all, there is an overarching framework for national security which has been recently cleared, as you must have seen in the media, which is done by the National Security Council Secretariat, NSCS, which is, trying to create the big picture across all agencies, whether it is the defense, whether it is the police, whether it is the IT, whether it is the other related departments, number one. And it's a very huge, ambitious, and it also contains components like CII, critical information infrastructure of the kind. President Obama has issued the orders in February, and it's part and parcel of this. In fact, what we conceptualize is exactly on the same lines, and it is through. And also, as a sequel to that, or as a complementary to that, the national cyber security policy is also approved, and a lot of action will ensue in the current financial year. That is, I would like to assure that action is going on at a very fast pace and at a very macro level, and with granular details having been worked out, number one. Number two, the there has been a mention about the personal safety and, you know, the panic button kind of a thing. We have also seen in the video and demo of that. As DT, we have been working on a electronic personal safety device, which is, you know, in the form factories like that of a watch, which any person who is threatened can wear. And with the press of a button, it, you know, it recognizes itself to the police, it sends an alert to the control room, and thereby again, it works, it meshes with the police network there, and then sends the alert to the nearest patrolling vehicle and sends the relief. So we are working on this system also. Currently there is one I would like to update. The other aspect is the involvement of, there is a reference to capacity building. It needs huge capacity in various sectors, not only in the government but in the private, to handle this security scenario. We estimate that the requirement is of the order of 500,000 professionals. Not all of them, of course, top level professionals, but from ground level upwards to the architects. So there is a plan prepared for the you know, building that kind of a capacity in this country from the cyber security perspective. And there is also a reference on the to the privacy aspects, especially where Shankar has also mentioned about that, and there was a further reference to that. Yes, there is a privacy bill which is at an advanced stage, and that the final version is now getting circulated, and I think sometime during the course of the year I am hoping that it will be in the public domain and also, you know, get enacted hopefully at the earliest. So this also balances the need for, you know, maintaining the security on the one side and also the privacy of the and confidentiality of the data that is residing in the country. So all these aspects are covered in the, while not, of course, infringing on the real privacy of the individuals. So this is also one more development that is currently taking place. And let me also mention, there has been a reference about compromise system. I think it's a very, very big problem today. The botnets is a very, very large, I cannot reveal the figure. It will really create probably a wrong impression, but it's a very significant you know, phenomena that is happening today. The botnets phenomena in this country, and of course in several other countries as well. The command and control centers, for mercenary reasons, you know, to what extent they can go and capture and get systems compromised. So that is one more area we are working on. The cyber security framework that I mentioned earlier addresses all these concerns, and we are actively working on it. I just wanted to update the audience on these aspects. Thank you.
I have a specific query with regard to the CCTNS project which is being implemented in J&K State. Under CCTNS, it involves not only the networking of various police stations, it also involves data digitization and sharing of information across various police stations. Only then it would become a meaningful project. My worry is that our traditional record, police record, is maintained in Urdu. And there's a typical way of writing FIRs. Those one can match it with the revenue record, which is hardly readable by normal people. So once you scan, let's say an old FIR record, which is 10-year-old or 15-year-old, merely scanning of the record may not be enough. You have to run certain search engines so that you are able to track and extract useful information out of the records that you scanned. My specific query is that the application which has been developed or which J&K Police is going to use under CCTNS project, number one, has it been tested on the real archival record that exists with J&K Police? If not, then what measures would you take? Thank you.
Well, as you said, the digitization is two-way. One, that there are records which are to be scanned and there are records which would be typed. So all the FIRs would be typed and not scanned, especially the ones that you're going to write now. And the archival records mostly would be scanned. And then you can retrieve them and have a look at them whenever you require. But because the names, for example, of suspects, name of accused persons, details of all those things that are required for sharing, all those would be available through search. You can retrieve them through search. Now the main application is not yet ready, but then we have a provision for customizing it for our own requirements. So because the policing is a state subject, so every state has its own ways of policing. So all these applications, although they are developed centrally, but there's a provision for customizing them to the local needs. So all these issues that you're raising would be addressed when we customize it to our needs, to our requirements.
I'm Sheikh Imtiaz, local entrepreneur. My question will be different. It will be regarding to security of my equipments. It will be for Cisco and Dallas. I'm running 60 NPR Aadhaar centers, where around in each government building, around equipment of costing 3 lakhs are put us. And after every 6 and 7 days, I have to change the venuers. What I am getting from last 2 months report, after every 3-4 days, either laptop is stolen or some other item is stolen by broken window panes, others. So what solution I have for the safety of equipments in 60 locations, and most of the locations are not net connected us. 50% of location will be where we don't have net facility, and 50% of location I'll have net facility. So what solution I have for the safety, security and monitoring of these assets, and daily public is coming for generation of Aadhaar cards. So I would like to visualize that also, so whether my people are able to deal well with them or not. So what security position take into consideration the cost also is. For as a local measure, I'm putting night chokidars and other things. So what economical ID solution I have to monitor these 60 to 80 centers on daily basis, night surveillance as well as day surveillance.
A tough question, it seems.
See, maybe I will give you Maharashtra experience because we have done the maximum in the country, about 6 crore Aadhaar. तो जो लैपटॉप चोरी होते हैं, काफ़ी कारण ये है कि कंपनीज बच्चों को टाइम पे तनख्वाह नहीं दे रही, तो बच्चे लैपटॉप लेके भाग जाते हैं, फिर कहते चोरी हो गया. ये सबसे बड़ा कारण है, very seriously. Second, you should have a basically some idea of where the laptops are today. So many companies don't have that idea because laptops are mobile. People change from one place to another. एक जगह footfalls कम हो गए. That guy moves to another place. So as a manager, as a supervisor, you must know where are the machines. And in Maharashtra, wherever, in some areas, these complaints came from the vendors. We are slightly worried about the security. I personally, as Secretary IT, talked to those SPs, police commissioners, and we tried to put security. Then what we have done is to tackle this problem, set up mega stations. एक लैपटॉप की बजाय एक सेंटर में 5-5, 10-10. In fact, in Mumbai, I have one station with 30 machines. So we are doing practically 30,000 enrollments per month from that station in Bandra. So that makes security easier. Then you reduce the number of chowkidars. You manage it much better. You can put an almirah with a proper lock. So these are very simple solutions, but effective solutions. Okay, from my side, I will add one point which got missed out in discussions, is that our police machinery and the IT sector and various IC people from NIC, etc. In our country, we have still not realized the powers of databases. When different databases talk to one another, magic happens. So in databases, 1 + 1 is not equal to 2. एक और एक 11 होते हैं. I will give you a few practical examples. पूरे देश में मोबाइल्स का इंपोर्ट अंडर वॉइसिंग होके इट हैपन्स मोस्टली फ्रॉम मुंबई. So our sale tax guys got real-time data from lot of other guys, customs, cargo and others, opera guys. And they found a Hawala racket in mobile of 1,000 crores. So that was nipped in the bud. So a refund racket, कि export होता है माल इसलिए sale tax refund होगा. They vetted it against MSCB bills. पता चला कि ठाणे में वो फैक्ट्री बंद थी, बिजली का मीटर जीरो है. Still they were claiming manufacture and export. So they got a racket of 200 crores.
Wow.
So that leakage was plugged. जो refund जा रहा था, that leakage was plugged. In a murder case, JD murder case, आपने काफी मुझे पता नहीं कई लोगों ने पढ़ा होगा. In Mumbai, one journalist was killed. So our ATS anti-terrorism squad chief, he rang me up कि बॉस ये गाड़ी नंबर मिला है, ये मुझे आधे घंटे में information मिल गई तो काम हो जाएगा. I spoke to someone in NIC Delhi. They gave me username password for the Vahan database. So that was very useful. In one case, लखनऊ में blast हुआ, उसकी जेब में जो suspect था उसकी जेब में voter ID card मिला. So luckily in the election commission, the whole database was in one place, entire 70 crore voters. So we could, in actually 10 minutes, I was in election commission, I sat in the next room with the database administrator. In 10 minutes, we gave the police the information that this voter card was made on this day in this district. So it helped them. So when different databases start talking to one another, it is really like magic. So it's good for the police, good for the government, good for the tax revenue collection people, but very bad for the citizens. So already citizens are at the mercy of many government agencies. When they start sharing databases, so privacy issues come and basically that big brother kind of thing comes. So it has both pros and cons. But databases talking to one another, digitizing our databases, when databases are at different places, putting them in central server. In Mumbai, I was saying that you have payroll in different places in a decentralized manner. Even if somebody comes with a CD or a pen drive and every month plugs it into a central server, you can actually reduce the salary bills by 10%. There is so much leakage, one fellow is getting salary from 3 places. Wherever we are using this, putting bank accounts, shading it with UID, we are saving 20 to 30% in subsidies or salaries or pensions. So just like there is that golden ratio, Fibonacci ratio, there's a rotten ratio of 20 to 30%. So that is the way our databases are inflated, the beneficiary databases. So digitizing databases, centralizing them, making them talk to one another, then using big data analytic tools, pattern matching, this really helps. And it is really helping in police.
Sir, the basic topic is role of IT in security. ये बेसिक फंडा आज का हमारा यही है. तो सर जहाँ तक रिकॉर्ड का सवाल है, 1980 में 3 वर्ड का जो पासवर्ड था एक कंप्यूटर को उसको तोड़ने में मात्र 1 मिनट लगा था. सर 1999 में 56 कैरेक्टर का जो पासवर्ड था उसको तोड़ने में सर केवल 56 कैरेक्टर का एक सेट ऑफ कंप्यूटर को मात्र 1 दिन लगा. वो सर 56 कैरेक्टर का पासवर्ड था, उसको सर तोड़ दिया वो केवल 1 दिन में. सर 2004 का जो रिकॉर्ड है एक सेट ऑफ कंप्यूटर्स है, वो सर 1 घंटे में 4 मिलियन कंप्यूटर को इन्फेक्ट कर दिया. तो आप जितनी भी सर सिक्योरिटी की बात करते हैं, आईटी सिक्योरिटी की, चाहे वो पुलिसिंग हो या डिफेंस हो या जो कुछ भी हो, सर स्कॉटलैंड पुलिस में हमने जो पढ़ा आर्टिकल या यूएसए के जो रिसर्च विंग है, सर इसको डील करने के लिए उन कंट्री में एक रिसर्च विंग होते हैं. हमारे यहाँ सर जहाँ तक मेरा नॉलेज है एक्सक्लूसिव स्टेट में ऐसा रिसर्च विंग है नहीं. अगर छोटा मोटा है तो उसमें लोग जाना ही नहीं चाहते हैं. तो अगर जब तक सर आप उस पर विचार नहीं करेंगे कि इसके लिए आपके पास एक एक्सक्लूसिव विंग हो जो इस बात को डील करे, जैसे कि अब छोटा सा एक सीरियल आता है सर CID, विद इन सेकेंड्स उनके पास कंप्यूटर से रिलेटेड या इंफॉर्मेशन रिलेटेड एक विंग होती है, वो तुरंत उसको डिटेक्ट कर लेते हैं. तो हमारे पास क्या इस तरह की कुछ व्यवस्था है सर? दैट इज द मेन इशू.
सी आप जो बोल रहे हैं कि
जैसे मैं आपको बताता कि आईसीटी के अच्छे भी काम होते हैं और उसको लोग बाग गलत कामों में भी प्रयोग में लाते हैं, और ये जो स्ट्रगल है आईसीटी फॉर गुड यूज एंड आईसीटी फॉर डिसरप्टिव एक्टिविटीज़, ये सतत एक संघर्ष है। इट इज़ लाइक दिस कि जब तक मान लो इसको छोड़ दीजिए, चोरी है, चोर कोशिश करेगा चोरी करने के लिए, आप कोशिश करेंगे उससे बचने के लिए। तो पहले आप हो सकता था केवल एक कुंडी लगा देते थे, काम चल जाता था। फिर आपने कहा नहीं ये तो नहीं है, वो कुंडी खोल लेता था, फिर आपने लॉक लगाना चालू किया, फिर आपने कुछ और दो लीवर का लॉक लगाने, फिर 5 लीवर का लॉक लगाने, फिर आपने डिजिटल लॉक लगाने लगे, फिर सर्विलांस के कैमरा लगाने लगे। सो इट्स अ कांस्टेंट स्ट्रगल। सेकेंडली जो आपने बात कही कि रिसर्च एंड डेवलपमेंट के लिए, देयर नो डाउट no society can make progress unless we invest or unless that society invests heavily into R&D activity. क्योंकि R&D से new knowledge would be created and that knowledge can be made use of for taking care of such disruptive activities. So there is no doubt. लेकिन कितना उसमें हम कर पाते हैं, and more or many times it is failed, और लोग सोचते हैं कि R&D जो एक्टिविटी है ये केवल गवर्नमेंट का दायित्व है। ये नहीं हो सकता unless we ensure that R&D is taken as some kind of a discipline by the private sector, by public sector, by government, tab tak we will not be able to achieve very much. We are moving in that direction, but it will take some more time. There is no doubt कि it's lacking at the moment, but in years to come, I am very optimistic that things would be much better.
Sir, you are right, sir.
Thank you, sir. I think it has been a very interactive session and a lot of questions have come from the audience. So thank you all of you for being part of this session, and especially the speakers. And as a small token of appreciation to our speakers for being a part of this session and the first session of this event, we have mementos for our speakers. I request Shri Shankar Agarwal ji, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Defence, Government of India, to kindly present the memento to Shri Suresh Kumar, Principal Secretary, Department of Home, Government of Jammu and Kashmir. Photo shoot is very important. We would like to thank I request Shri Shankar Agarwal ji to present the memento to Shri Rajesh Agarwal, Secretary IT, Government of Maharashtra. To Dr. B. Srinivas, Inspector General of Police, CID, Jammu and Kashmir. To Shri Sayyid Javed Mujtaba Gilani, Inspector General of Police Crime, Jammu and Kashmir. To Shri Balaji Rao, Director Sales, VMware. To Mr. Lokesh Lohia, Business Development Manager, Physical Safety and Security, Cisco. We also would like to extend our gratitude to Mr. Bhupesh Bhan, Director Sales, Dell. And now may I please request Shri Suresh Kumar ji to present the memento to Shri Shankar Agarwal. Well, it has been a great day for all of us, and there is more. It is not yet over. In the evening at 7:30 p.m., we are having a very interesting cultural program at the same hall, which shall shed light on the vibrant culture of the state of Jammu and Kashmir. This program has been directed by Shri Balwant Thakur, who is the Director at Indian Council for Cultural Relations, Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India. In 2013, Shri Thakur was awarded Padma Shri for his contribution to the field of art. We would request all of you to join us for the cultural program in the evening and the subsequent dinner. Also, tomorrow we shall be beginning our first session at 10 a.m. So requesting all of you to be kindly present by 9:30 a.m. And the networking can be extended to the garden area with tea, and hope you all have interesting interaction in the evening and also enjoy the cultural program. Thank you. And also join us for the subsequent dinner that will fall after the cultural program. And while you are having your networking tea and interaction in the garden, we also have a whiteboard where you can give your testimonials, and we are inviting all of you to kindly give your feedback, testimonials, and write something good for us. Thank you. And hopefully it should be good, by the way.